It's 2023, and knowing that I already have an Ultimate 64, why would I ever need something like JiffyDos? The Ultimate 64 emulates a 1541 drive, pretty much in a stock format. That is to say, it runs nearly as slow as if you had a 1541 disk drive directly plugged in. I believe this was done mostly for compatibility purposes. With the Ultimate 64, you can install a fast load cartridge in order to quickly load programs. This is something I have not had much success with, so I don't usually use those types of cartridges. However, with my recent purchase of C64 OS, which I intend to cover in an upcoming video, a secondary drive such as the SD to IEC is required, and those drives are by default really slow. Before diving into purchasing JiffyDos, I decided to try out DolphinDos, which is available for free. I learned everything I need to know about both these file system speed enhancers from the Highlander 71 YouTube video on the subject. I highly recommend checking it out, link in the description. I'm going to carry out a couple of unscientific speed tests between DolphinDos and JiffyDos, and from there, we will have a better understanding of the importance of JiffyDos when using an SD to IEC device. So the rest of this video is just me tinkering around with the settings on the Ultimate 64 and trying to run some tests using both JiffyDos and DolphinDos. To start with my equipment here, I have a Ultimate 64, not the Elite, so just to be clear, it's not the Elite. I'm not sure, there might be some differences in the ROMs or in the settings menus when we go looking through there. The first thing I wanted to let you know is that in the settings here, I don't have a cartridge in, and for this first set of tests, we're just using the stock 1541 driver and the 1541 Ultimate kernel. I just wanted to show the baseline times to load a couple of programs. I don't want this video to be super long, so I'm only going to test 2 different programs, and this is going to be the baseline. So the first thing I want to load is my program gpackdd, and I'm going to hit run, and I'm going to start the clock at the same time. So the idea here is just to get a baseline time. In my previous testing, this takes over 1.5 minutes, so I will speed up this part of the video. Alright, so it took roughly 1 minute and 32 seconds to get to this point. Now I'm going to go ahead and reboot by pressing F5, going in here and reboot Commodore 64. And now instead of loading just a program, I'm going to load the C64 OS here, but let's see what's on the drive using drive 9. You see the light come on. So we're going to do load quote asterisk comma 9 comma 1, and then I'm not going to start the clock until I type run. So I'm going to go right there, and then I'm going to hit the clock, and we're going to start it right now. And then in my previous testing, this also takes roughly 1.5 minutes to load without any performance enhancements. We'll speed up the video right now. Okay, so that took about 1 minute and 28 seconds just using the stock software that's built into the Ultimate 64. So that is our baseline. Now I want to try the same thing and using DolphinDos. There's a couple of ways to configure DolphinDos, so let's go in and get that started. I have the ROMs loaded on a folder called ROMs, and then within there I have a DolphinDos and then a JiffyDos folder, but we're going to go into DolphinDos. And then from following the Highlander's video, he was saying that the kernel has to be the 20-3. It doesn't have to be, but that's the one that was working for him. So I'm just going to go in and hit set as the kernel. And then I'm thinking let's just do that for the first test. Let's just see if there's any differences, and I'll flash up the times here when I'm done with that test. There's two other things we can do, and I'll show you that before I start the test. We can set the drive ROMs right here. We can set the drive ROMs to the DolphinDos ROMs, and we can also give extra RAM. And I think each one makes a difference. The other thing we can do is this SpeedDOS parallel cable. So when this was released, I guess it had a SpeedDOS cable, and it makes a huge difference. But before we do any of that, all I've done was change the ROM out. So let's do a reboot. And now you see DolphinDOS there 2.0 at the top. And let's just see if there's a speed difference just by loading the kernel, changing the kernel out. So first, let's try the first program that I was trying, my GPAC program, and let's kick off that test. $132. So it looks roughly the same. Not roughly, exactly the same. And I assume we'll get the same time that we got loading the C64 OS. But we'll run through it. Okay, 127. Now, I think that's roughly the same time. Now let's go ahead and put the drivers in place. Now for that, there's a couple of ways you can do it. The easiest way is just to go in here and we're going to use the -6, and you just says set as 1541 ROM, and then when you go in here, just go down and select it. Make sure you have it selected. So that's your DolphinDos ROM, and I'm going to do it on both drives. Save to flash. Save changes to flash. Oops, and then I'm going to reboot. And we'll try these tests again. Okay, so right off the bat you can see we get this error message because for whatever reason, DolphinDos needs the extra RAM setting. And in the Highlanders video, when he went into these settings, I think it's because he's on a different machine or a different ROM kernel or firmware. When you go to the extra RAM, here it's just an on or off. So we're going to enable it, and then I'm going to go into drive B and do the same thing. Save the changes. I'm going to reboot just in case. And we'll try the test again. Okay, so instead of 1:32, we're down to 1:21. Now let's try the other program. $127 is about the same. So now let's go ahead, let me clear this, and enable the speed cable, and you'll see a huge difference The SpeedDOS parallel cable is disabled. Let's enable it. Save that, and then reboot. Now let's do both tests one more time. Seven seconds. See what a huge difference. In fact, this is even faster than, spoiler, this is even faster than JiffyDos. Now, with this same configuration, let's see if we can see how fast we can get the other one running, C64 OS. I want you to notice that drive B right now is disabled. If we enable it, I haven't had success with it enabled, but I want to show that. See, I can't get DolphinDos or JiffyDos to work without enabled. So I'm just going in and I'm disabling it just so I can get it functioning. So in that case, I'm not really sure if it's even using this or if it's just using the kernel. I think it's just using the kernel when you have the drive disabled. Oops. So right now it's in the wrong directory. I'm going to push the button to reset to the root. And then I'll start the test when we type run. Again, this is DolphinDos with all the features turned on, the extra RAM, except for drive 9 has to be disabled on the Ultimate for some reason. But it still executes and it runs this way. And we do see a performance boost. So that's roughly the same. We don't get that performance boost, and I think it's because it's not using that cable. That SpeedDOS cable is not being used in this example. Alright, so that is the test for DolphinDos. Now we want to skip or move over to JiffyDos and see how that performs. But before I do that, I just want to reset all the settings. I could reset everything, I don't want to do that, but I just want to go in and I have an Ultimate kernel. I'm going to set that as my kernel. Set my drive A and drive B back to 1541. Turn the extra ROM off. And then turn off the SpeedDOS cable, which I don't think makes any difference for JiffyDos. But we will find out. Okay, so now we're in standard configuration. Now we want to load the JiffyDos ROMs. I did have to go to the Retro Innovation store to purchase these, and so whereas DolphinDos is a free download, the JiffyDos is something you have to pay for. So let's go in and now set everything to JiffyDos. On JiffyDos. And I did download a patch version, but we're just going to try the stock JiffyDos that I downloaded. Set that as the kernel. So we'll just try it like that, not doing anything else but the kernel. And we'll reboot. Notice it now says, JiffyDos. Now let's try our test just by itself. Let's see how fast it is without doing loading any more ROMs. I mean kernels or drivers. So we got the same speed as if we did nothing. So it looks like we really need to load the driver. Let's reboot and try. Let's try C64 OS. So here we load, JiffyDos loads C64 OS in 16 seconds flat, which is the fastest result I've been able to achieve on my setup. And it doesn't appear that we even are going to get a difference by loading the driver, because I don't think it's using that drive because it's turned off. But in the interest of consistency, let's set that up. So I'm going to load the JiffyDos drive, the 1541-2, and I'm going to enable the extra RAM and do it on both. I don't even think we need to do the extra RAM, but let's just see what it does. Let's clear that clock. And try GPack again. See if there's any difference. Okay, so now let's try. That was a difference. Let's reboot and load the OS again. "16 seconds. So we got the exact same time. And so through my testing, that is the absolute fastest I've been able to get the C64 OS to load. And you can see I have my mouse set up. I'm going to do a video on the C64 OS when I get some time to play around with it, once I've had time to try a few things. But for now, that concludes my video, and I hope you can glean something from it and maybe leave some comments in the video. Maybe you can let me know if I did something wrong in my testing procedure. This was the result that I was able to find tinkering around. Alright, anyway, thanks for watching.